Awesome. Yeah, at this point, if anyone has any questions, we'd love to answer. Any comments, things of that nature.
Any questions from you? You can either chat them as type them in, or I guess they can speak correctly. I mean, can they?
Yeah, we'll give them opportunity to speak as well. It's like, I think there's an option for you to raise your hand, and I'll unmute you or allow you to talk. I think that'd be the easiest way.
So there was a an answer from one of the parents. Says, I believe that the CV sheriff station also takes meds and drugs, etc. And that is true. Yes, that is
exactly.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that was.
So we do have a hand raised from Brooke, and Brooke will go ahead and give you the opportunity to speak.
Hi, this is Brooke and her husband. We're just kind of wondering, aside from calling 911, if there is an emergency, is there anything else that we could possibly ready ourselves with? I know that I've heard of certain like vaccination or antidote things that we could have on hand in the case of some sort of overdose event, which might lessen the impact. Would you know anything or have any ideas about how to be more prepared for when that event happens?
Absolutely. So can you hear me? Okay. So basically, the only substance that can be reversed with what you're talking about is opioids, and it's called Narcan. Narcan can be purchased at any pharmacy, and it can either be it's either a nasal spray or it's an injection that can reverse an overdose when it comes to opioids, such as the heroin, the Oxycontins, fentanyl, if you catch it in time. Unfortunately, that's the only the only anti-overdose medication that is available right now for that specific substance. Everything else, unfortunately, they don't have anything available just as of yet. But so Narcan is what you'd want to go ahead and look for and keep at the house just in case.
And that's over the counter?
Yeah, you would have to go. I believe they, if I'm not mistaken, they offer it free at your local pharmacy if it's a necessity because of the danger of possible overdose in the house. But you can definitely go into a CVS, Walgreens, and ask them for it. It'll definitely be available.
Would we have a problem in administering it if we're not completely sure that it's an opioid event?
No, so the good thing is that even if it's not an opioid overdose, the Narcan is not going to do anything to them. Okay. The only thing that and here's how you'll know that it's not an opioid overdose if you give them the Narcan, because I don't know if you've ever seen what Narcan does, but once you administer the Narcan, whether it's through an injection in the thigh or it's the nasal, they immediately come out of the comatose state that they're in, right? So if they're passed out and you believe it's an opioid overdose and you give them the Narcan, within seconds, they should come to. They may still be delusional, but they will come to. Now, if you give them the Narcan and they don't come to, then it's something else.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then that's when I would recommend highly to put them in the car or call 911 and then take them to the nearest emergency room. I mean, you still will want to do that after they come out of the heroin overdose or the opioid overdose. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and it looks like someone else has a question. So.
Hi, my apologies. I joined a little late. At what age should we start really paying attention? I mean, I have a 6th grader, so I know probably already in middle school.
I mean, anyone else, I would say, yeah, that's a perfect time to start, especially today's generation. They're starting way younger than we did in my generation. I'm 46. So back when I was in middle school, I really had no idea of drugs or gangs or anything outside of my home. But once I got to high school is when it really started for me. But now today's generation, I would definitely start keeping an eye on the middle schoolers as well. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Ooh. I do have a mom who is a pharmacist who just put a note here regarding Narcan. It's not free, but certainly pharmacists and pharmacies can provide it without a prescription. You can purchase it, or you have a prescription from a provider. You can use it, use your insurance to cover the cost. So there you go.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Always good to have pharmacist parents.
Absolutely.
Can you just take a second from both of you? I'm with the parents that I work with, and parents know me. I'm very practical, and the questions I get all the time are, hey, my kids are heading off now to parties. My kids are heading off to school events or off-campus events. What would be some really good pieces? Because I've been sharing with parents things that I did with my girls. My girls are in the mid-20s now, and just preparing our kids going into these environments, to these homes, to these parties, to be alert, to be aware. Can you give some more insight also? And I'll throw in some of mine, but what would you say would be a typical conversation to have with a middle school child heading off to a birthday party, a school event, an off-campus event, not on school campus, but an off, what I'm talking about, going to someone's home or to a party? What would you suggest at this point? What would be your advice?
Christian, or you want me to?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, same. I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old as well. And I would just, for me personally, I don't know if this is clinical or whatever. This is just me personally.
This is called everyday parenting. Yeah, so go for it, Elton. Go for it.
And I'll be honest with you, again, as you mentioned at the beginning when you introduced me, I am a recovering addict, and I didn't have any of these conversations with my parents when I was 15. Yeah. I was sucked into the peer pressure and sucked into the gangs and the drugs in the area that I grew up in, and I didn't have anybody to tell me. So I would just sit down and talk to them and basically let them know, what to expect, the possibilities of seeing certain kids drinking, certain kids using drugs, and culturally in my environment, I'd be like, and that if you come home and you're intoxicated, we're going to have a problem, but I would definitely just reiterate the fact that, for one, it's illegal. For one, you're underage. You can't be doing that. And the bottom line would be that, if you see that or you feel pressured of any sort, call me and I'll come pick you up. If you feel uncomfortable, I'll come get you. If you need me to wait outside for you, I'll wait outside for you. Again, these are things that I never had conversations with my parents. So that's what I tell them. And at the end of the day, I got kind of, it's hard because, again, I went through it. So the trust level is kind of like, I want to give them that trust. At the same time, I want to be cautious. So, luckily being that I work in treatment, I have drug tests readily available to me. So every now and then, if I get a little suspicious, I'm like, all right, let's go. And my son's my youngest. He's my 15-year-old. So I'm like, all right, you got to test for me. I'm not going to take any, you don't trust me. It's not that I don't trust you. I just want to be safe. But I think just, basic conversations, and opening it up and being real with with your child is definitely has its advantages. So
and one of the pieces that I would want to throw in there was, I always told my children, if they're going to someplace new, they don't know this family or they don't know the house that they're going into, I always had extra water bottles in my car, sealed water bottles, and I said, take this. Don't walk in empty-handed. Don't walk in and have someone hand you a drink that you don't know where it came from. You take in a water bottle. That's your drink for the night. If you see a soda that you want to drink that's closed, you can drink that. But anything that's open and you're handed something and you don't know that person, or you even know the person, drink your water. That's your liquid for the night. Same thing with food. I was very conscientious about that with my kids, with edibles. That was very big when my kids were going through high school, brownies, all those things. If you don't know who made them, or even if you do, and it's a trust issue here, but try to eat sealed foods. Try to find foods that come from a market that are sealed and that are opened at that moment and eat that. And those were just two very practical pieces that I definitely taught my kids and encouraged. It sounds so simple, but it does give them that out. They're going to want to drink something, right? They're going to want to eat something. Give them those items before you go.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'll disclose a little something that I'm not proud of, but it's something that had happened back when I was 16. We did make way before it was even popular. We made some brownies,
Yep.
some edible brownies, and we pranked like 6 of my friends. And luckily it wasn't a heavy dose, but we pranked them. They ate them, and an hour later they're like, "Why am I feeling? Ha ha! We gave you." So it's definitely. So it can happen, right? It's
Yes,
definitely
yes.
something that can happen, and that's a very good conversation to have as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that whole thing you said of, being available to pick them up and
Yep.
have that code word within your family, that code emoji you can send home, or a
Right,
code
yeah,
word
yeah.
where, hey, parents, and I always tell my parents, you be the scapegoat for your children. You be the one that they say, oh, my mom called and I have to go home. We have an event tomorrow. Yeah. Blame the parent, right? Use the parent as the mean old parent that I have to come home as your excuse to leave places. Go
Right.
ahead, use us, and text, call, and be there to pick them up.
Right.
And that is
another alternative. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
no, go Christian, go.
I think it'd be great also, obviously, if your child is not too embarrassed, but even walking with them, right, and kind of get an idea of what the environment is
Yes.
looking like.
Yeah.
Sort of the crowd is it's around. Is it older people? Is it someone who I want my kids hanging around with? I think that's always great for us to be able to really witness firsthand what they are getting into, and that way we can make a decision then and there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Very true, right? And in finding out, I think the question has to be asked. I think my kids were very tired of hearing me ask this question, but are the parents going to be there?
Right.
What adults are going to be there? Are the parents even in town? Who's responsible? And making contact with that parent to verify that. Walk up to that door, like you said, Christian, or even call and say, just get the family phone number. And say, great, let me talk to the parents and see that they are going to be there. That is, as you know, the biggest issue. But even if a parent is there, doesn't always mean they're going to be responsible, and what their values are. So that doesn't always count for, my parents are here. Okay. But they're also, they're
the ones that bought the beer. What are you talking about? So,
exactly.
I went to many parties like that in my age, in my day, where the parents, they always had that mentality. Well, I'd rather have them do it here than out in the street.
So, and I think the repercussions, what we have to really expose our children to is, having a driver's license doesn't seem to be as big for a lot of kids as it was when I was growing up in the 70s and in the 80s. But there are some repercussions, and I think educating our children on the repercussions of losing a license if you driving or being in the car with someone who is intoxicated, and how you are also you are responsible and you are still part of that scene. There are many repercussions that really will stay with you for a very long time.
Yeah,
so
and that's a fact, because I also part-time work at a DUI school that I see many young teenagers and young adults with DUIs that were very irresponsible, and now they have to pay an arm and a leg for these classes, and they lose their license for 2 years, and they got to drive around with the breathalyzer. I mean, so definitely that's a big thing
and even for marijuana, Elton, correct?
No,
even for marijuana,
that.
and that's what we have to realize. This is not something they can, it's just marijuana. No.
Yeah, no. And ironically, my most recent new clients that I've gotten in the last year are, I want to say, a good 45-50% marijuana cases. Not even drunk. They smelled like marijuana. They got pulled over and they got a DUI, and here they are spending thousands of dollars for these classes because it was just weed. So
and that's that's a conversation Elton and Christian and I were having about a topic for tonight, which is marijuana, and how this is now legal in so many places. What's legal mean? What's alcohol legal, right? And how this is really causing a confusion for a lot of our kids. I have elementary kids that are very confused about their parents smoking marijuana, and so why can't I? And when can I? And it's almost the next question I'm getting. It used to be, when can I get my cell phone? Now it's like, when can I start smoking marijuana? You're doing it, it's legal. So when can I start doing it? So parents, be aware that this confusion that we're having right now, it's the same confusion when alcohol became legal. It is a very confusing state. Children are really stuck in this strange place right now, trying to understand how this all works. And yeah, so I don't know, Elton and Christian, if you want to speak on that at all, but
I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, just because it's legal doesn't make it okay. Like with alcohol, alcohol is legal, and it definitely is, if not the biggest misused substance in the world right now. And just because marijuana is legal as well doesn't make it okay. And if the kids are asking when can I smoke, I mean, it's like when you can drink, right? What's the legal age of drinking is 21, and I believe the legal age now is still 21 to be able to just walk into a dispensary and purchase marijuana, like recreational. So if that's the question, then you wait until then. As of now, it's still illegal for you to partake in. Under 18 years old, you can still have consequences. You can still get in trouble for it. Again, being that I'm a recovering drug addict, I firmly believe that marijuana and alcohol are definitely a gateway into harder drugs. That's just my opinion. But it's definitely a conversation to be had. And like we talked about before we started was, a lot of these kids are, well, it's just weed and it's beneficial and it does this. And, I always tell these kids like, okay, well, what ailment are you suffering from that you need to be smoking weed from? Do you have autism? Do you have any cancers? Do you have something that you need, migraines or whatever medical benefit we know that they do help with? What do you have at 15? So, and that usually shuts them all down, right? Because a lot of them are like, well, I don't have anything, but
it's a great question, Elton, that really kind of parents to have that piece in your pocket to ask that question.
Absolutely. And
it's a great response. It's a great response. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also understanding the potency of marijuana nowadays, right? All the extracts, and it's very high potency compared to what it was back then. And so some parents might feel like, oh, it's just a little pot, but in reality, as Elton mentioned as well, if they're purchasing these backdoor products that can be possibly laced with fentanyl or something of that nature, definitely we don't know how it can affect the child, as well as just their brain development, right? They don't start developing until around, I want to say, studies say around 27 now. And so just helping them understand that and educating them on how their brain works, and basically making them understand the consequences of using could even possibly lead to them just making a better decision and holding off for it, right? Things of that nature definitely limits sort of the job opportunities you have, sort of your overall, again, just the way your brain's wired and how it can basically screw your development.
100%.
In that terms.
And it's funny you say that because I know real close friends of mine that own dispensaries and grow their own strains, and I also know a lot of friends that I grew up with that also are recovering addicts or had stopped smoking weed at my age because of the potency of the weed now. Like a lot of the kids don't realize that back in the 80s and the 90s, this weed wasn't as strong as it is now. So a lot of people my age have stopped smoking weed because it makes them paranoid, it makes them anxious. It's doing the reverse effect that it once was being used for. So this high-end THC nowadays, man, that's what always has me scared. Like I don't ever want to relapse because I'm scared that the first hit or whatever I use of weed, I'm gonna be sent to the mental institution because it'll freak me out. But a
lot of psychosis happening and things of that nature as well. It's very scary. It looks like we have a question here in the comments. It's the client you worked with, I guess in the sort of the clients that we have right at Insight, what are the top 3 to 5 reasons for them to use and abuse drugs?
Good question.
Even though they know it's probably not good for them. I'd say the main reason, there's 2, right? One would be the feeling of wanting to fit in. because they feel, you know, a lot of the underlying trauma is definitely a mental health issue of either whether they're feeling, you know,
Isolated.
insecure of themselves.
Yeah.
They don't like the way they look. They feel this, they feel that. So they want to fit in with the crowd that is using. Or the second reason would be to numb themselves for whatever's going on at home, right? Because a lot of these kids come from traumatic households that, you know, the parents are either addicts or alcoholics, so there's a lot of fighting going on, or there's a lot of you know, trauma that they've suffered that no one knows about yet, that hasn't been uncovered. But you know, I think those are the three reasons, right? The trauma, the fitting in, and to numb whatever it is they're feeling.
Yeah. Sounds about accurate.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why we include parents in treatment, you know, to get a better idea of sort of the family background. As you know, right, having parents or grandparents who have, you know, previous addictions, then it makes us more, you know, inclined to get addicted easier, right? And so understanding that and sort of understanding our family tree also helps us understand, you know, I might be more at risk to get addicted if I try a substance. And again, as Elton mentioned, you know, a lot of just being overwhelmed with emotions, right? And this sort of you know, overwhelming feeling that they're not being heard, or you know, their feelings are not being validated. This sort of, you know, again, parents might have a mentality where it's like you know, roll up your sleeves and deal with it type of thing, right? As opposed to really understanding and listening to your child. Again, so that's why we definitely include parents in the treatment process and helping them and educating them as well, and sort of helping them understand that, you know, nowadays there's a shift in culture where we're starting to really address these issues and recognize them, and there's a definite need for them. As you can see, you know, the spike of you know, mental health services needed, and the spike of you know, use of substances is definitely, you know, correlated to the culture that maybe have been, you know, subconsciously passed on from our parents, right?
Yeah, great questions, everybody. Great questions. Any more questions or thoughts right now before we end? It's 8 o'clock. We're gonna kind of end here very soon. So if there's any more, be a good time to speak up. I don't see any other. Christian or Elton, do you see any more questions popping in?
I do not.
Nothing. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. We have some thank yous. Oh, here's a question. What percentage of the kids would you say have taken drugs?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't
That's
even know how to answer that.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised though. It's probably a high number. You know, whether they've tried it once or they're using them regularly. I think it's a high number. I can't specifically tell you what the percentage is, but I'm definitely sure.
I think it's obviously, you know, kind of a dependent on the location of the facility, right? Some communities are a little bit more sort of you know, use drugs, I guess you can say, but we have noticed that there has been a spike, an increase, of course, as Elton mentioned, due to the pandemic, right? A lot of children are feeling overwhelmed, and sort of a lot of emotions are going on, a lot of uncertainty, and so they want to numb that pain. And so, you know, we definitely have seen an increase in the use of substances.
And just the accessibility of having things delivered. Everything is being delivered, not just food. Everything is being delivered, and that's you know, keep tabs on how your children pay for things, the Venmo, the PayPal. Keep an eye on how they're using their money, because that's where it's coming out of, and not even watching their text, looking at how their payment system, who are they paying, where, and watching deliveries that come to your house. It is a really big piece.
Yeah, this is why I had stated earlier, you know, even if you don't suspect them in any way, or they're just good at hiding it, you definitely want to just check their phone every now and then, or if you do have access to their finances, do that. You know, like you said, keep an eye on their finances, because one thing that I find here, specifically at my facility, is that because I do random phone checks with these kids, I'll call them, I'll catch them off guard, and I'll be like, I need to check your phone, and So I'll go through things, and Snapchat, Instagram, all these personal DM messages, because of Snapchat's the biggest one, because they have a feature where you can be messaging somebody and the message will erase once it's read. So that's how they're getting away with it. But you definitely want to keep an eye out for that, because these delivery, they leave it behind the plant, and I'll Zelle you the money or Venmo you the money, or leave it in the mailbox or here. And that's the biggest thing right now, because everything can be bought online.
Everything. Oh, so the question was, good question. How much do drugs cost? There we go. That is actually a really good question. Thank you.
So the old me is going to come out that I can.
All right. Well, right. Let's bring it to the future here.
So
let's talk about inflation too.
Yeah. So marijuana is different. It can, depending on the amount of the marijuana, it could vary from $20 to $30 for a gram, which is like this size of the flower. And the more amount of the flower you get, which is like 3.5 grams, like I had mentioned before, which is called an eighth in any drug, is about $60 to $70. And usually these kids are I don't think, it's rare to find a kid dabbling in a higher quantity amount of that unless they're selling it. But for the most part, it could be anywhere from $20 to $60 to $70 for marijuana. Edibles, depending on the milligrams of THC in the actual edible, could be like $20 for a big brownie, $20 for a bag of gummies, $40 for a bag of gummies. And then for the stronger stuff, right, the heroin, the methamphetamine, the cocaine, that's the cocaine would be the most expensive. So for 3.5 or the 8-ball, as I mentioned earlier, you're looking at like $200-300. And then a gram of it could cost anywhere from $80 to $120. And then methamphetamine and heroin are the cheapest. So you can spend $20 for meth and get about a good 0.4 or 5, which if you're a beginning user will last you a good while, or if you've taken it to the extreme like I did for 16 years, it's something that'll last you an hour. So that definitely can be expensive.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we're learning so much tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I can go a lot more into depth, but
I know.
You definitely want to keep a track on your finances. I mean, if your kid,
it is. It's so true. And keep an eye on their account, especially the Venmo, whatever they have as their payment system. Yeah. That I'm telling you, that is as good as gold as looking at their text messages.
Yeah. So, and another thing, really quickly, just to throw out there, and I know we got to end, but if all of a sudden you see your child happening to have more than a usual amount of Amazon gift cards or any type of gift card, that's also a red flag, because that's how these people are paying for things. And when I say things, a lot of these kids have gotten into stealing. So you got to also keep an eye out for stuff that's just happening to appear that they have now. And, oh, my friend gave this to me, or we traded this and that. Be very, very skeptical of that, because a lot of these kids are going to department stores and stealing stuff and trading it for drugs, or they'll get an Amazon gift card and trade that for that. And then that's how their kids will be paying for drugs. So there's a lot of
interesting.
We've even seen kids do assignments for each other in exchange for drugs, right? Like it's they'll find a way. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it looks like we also have another question here that I'm going to go ahead and allow them.
Thank you so much. That's very informative. So my question is for you, Maribeth. If we keep an eye on our children's, when they have finances, payments, and we notice something fishy or something we have questions about, how do we approach them when we're not sure if it's something really bad, or just something we have questions? How do we approach them? Do we tell them, hey, I've been watching this and I noticed something, and how do we skillfully approach that situation
right,
without breaking the trust?
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think the first, sorry, I didn't want to use your name, but your name's up there. But I think the first thing we have to always remember when we're working with our children or talking with our children is our children should already know that, you know, if this is a phone that we've given them and we're paying for it, that's our property and we have the right at any time to go onto that phone. It's not an issue of trust. It's not an issue of mistrust. It's an issue of safety. And that's how you have to approach everything with phones, cars, debit cards, anything you give them. It's a matter of safety. And until they are, you know, and earning their own income or earning their own money, buying their own phone, you are going to help them by monitoring this to make sure that things are done in a way that isn't going to cause long-term effects on their credit, on their life, on their safety, on their health. And so the approach is always, hey, you know, I just was, you know, I was in your phone and I noticed this, or I was overseeing some of the transactions you've been doing on Venmo or PayPal, or now with Amazon cards, good to know.
Yeah.
Or you've been doing a lot of math assignments lately. Wow, and they're not yours.
Yeah.
Good to know that one too.
Yeah.
You know, it's saying, hey, I wonder what's going on. Remember that wonder question that I teach you all. Not hey, what's going on? I wonder what's going on here. This seems a little bit off. Help me understand what's going on. Yeah. And what Elton said earlier, and you know, is really in that communication, it's communicating to them at a time that's convenient for them as well as for you. It isn't always convenient for them or you, but it's finding that time that works and having time for that time to talk to your children. But that's the approach. We always have to do that same approach with everything. Hey, something's going on here. Can you help me understand? This just doesn't quite add up. You know, it's not jumping and jumping down, but it's narrating. Remember, same thing, we're narrating with our young children. We're not walking into a room when two siblings are fighting and then start taking sides, or, you know, we're narrating out, hey, something's going on here, guys. What's going on? There's been a lot of screaming, right? Same thing. Hey, something's going on here. There's a lot of messages going on. There's a lot of strange emojis. I don't know what's going on. There's some money that's been missing. There's something going on here. Let's figure this out. Remember those joining words? Let's figure it out. That's the approach. That's the approach.
Yeah, and definitely not to be accusatory, right? You definitely don't want to accuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I just absorb that right now, Maribeth. Let's figure it out. I'm wondering, yeah, different approach. Yeah.
They're joining words. Let's figure it out, right? Yeah. Let's figure it out. Yep. We're all working together, Elton, on the same thing. It's just
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, good question though. Good question. Anything else, parents, or Christian or Elton? Anything else you want to throw in there to complete our?
I believe we have one more question before we end it.
Okay.
So it's how do we know the transaction is drugs? Would it just be a person? Can we give some examples, basically?
Well, I think that falls back to what we were just saying, right? We want to, you know,
inquire. I wonder. It seems odd, yeah.
Yeah, you know, why, you know, let's figure this out. Why are you paying this person this particular amount of money for what services were rendered? What is going on? And then for me, in the field that you know, with the drug and alcohol and the kids, I've learned in the years I've been doing this. Once they get defensive, from my experience, then that lets you know that something is definitely off. Because if and I use this in everyday life, if you're not hiding anything, if I ask you a question and you flat out tell me the truth, you're gonna be calm and collective. You're not gonna get defensive and why the hell are you asking me that? So anytime that happens, I definitely want to suggest that you look further into it, because that's definitely a red flag as to you know, think something's definitely off. Yeah. Because
and they're concerned, they're worried about something too. You know, they might be into some trouble that they don't even know how to get out of, and they don't know the answers, and so they are going to defend themselves. Yeah. It's that whole piece of that fight, flight, and you know they're gonna fight this through, and they're gonna try to break away and hide from it too. So it's yeah, you have to look at all those pieces for sure. Yeah. Yep. All right. That's that. All right. Very cool. Thank you all so much. Parents, thank you for being part of this. This is being recorded, and so it will be on my podcast, Everyday Parenting Podcast, in the near future. But I want to thank Christian and I want to thank Elton so much for taking your evening to volunteer your time here this evening. And I really look forward to working together. maybe some future endeavors, and parents. Great resources here. I'll be posting a lot of Christian and I are I'm gonna ask him to send me a bunch of stuff, and I'll put it into my link tree. Some resources for you parents, so you have that tangible written information that you can log into for resources. Okay, but thank you all, and have a good rest of your evening. And we're going to sign off here from Everyday Parenting Podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate being a part of this. It's always a pleasure and honor to share our experience with everyone. So thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you.